Hey, Clayton, why do we always talk about Jesus as meek and gentle instead of this kick butt warrior Jesus in Revelation? Okay, I think they're referring to Revelation chapter 19, where Jesus is returning and he shows up and he is, riding a horse and he's got a sword and he's got that name tattooed on his thigh and he's ready to, judge the evil in the world and he's winning a war and he's just conquering people. And in contrast with the depiction of Jesus as compassionate and warm and welcoming to children and taking care of people who are sick and gentle in his responses and these sorts of things. And so they're saying, why do we always talk about the kind of the kind of warm, soft side of Jesus rather than this kick butt warrior version of Jesus? And the first thing I would say is this: always be careful when you say, "Why do we always?" Because sometimes it's simply your perception, right? So it's funny how often I hear people say opposite things. I will have people come up to me on the same weekend at church and they'll say, why do we always talk about this? And then the other people will say, why do we always talk about that? Or why do we never do that? Or why do we never do that? And they're talking about the opposite sides of attention, right? And I often have people who will say, hey, when are we going to talk about this? And it turns out, well, like 2 weeks ago when you weren't at church, we talked about that. So sometimes it's our perception about what Christians do or a church does or an individual does. So we always got to be careful about always and never and over-characterizing, because I've been in contexts where people emphasize the meek, gentle side of Jesus and people who emphasize the wrathful, just, kick butt warrior side of Jesus. And I think both of those things come up in different contexts at different times. But it is a striking image, right? In Revelation 1, it has this. Revelation 19 has these image of this just very powerful vision of Jesus. And it's interesting because Revelation is playing with attention here. Remember how the most common phrase to describe Jesus in the book is the Lamb, right? At the very beginning of the book, Jesus is told, look, the Lion from the tribe of Judah. And he turns expecting to see a lion, right? Fierce, ferocious, powerful, the one who's going to win wars. And it says, and I saw a lamb that looked like it had been slain. So it's not just that he sees, a fierce, he thinks he's going to see a fierce animal and he sees a docile animal. He actually sees one that has been killed, a sacrificed animal, one who has laid down his life. And so you get this contrast, this tension between the lion and the lamb, the warrior and the sacrifice, these things. And this is one of the things that theologians have pointed out for a long time. Jonathan Edwards is a theologian from early in American history, and he liked to say that beauty is when you see harmony between two very distinct and distant things. Like the further apart two things get from being like each other, you get light and darkness, or you get even in flavors, you get salty and sweet, or you get something that is large and something that is small, and you get all of these things. When an artist is able to bring those two things together, things that seem like opposites to each other, and bring those things together, that's where the most beautiful things happen. Where you can capture the harmonies between things that don't seem like they should be harmonious. You get this beauty that's there. And Jonathan Edwards would say Jesus is the ideal of this. He can bring together the most distant things, right? Like he is the lion and the lamb. He is the just and the merciful. He is the one who is transcendent and sovereign over all, and yet he's also eminent and close and near to the brokenhearted, and you get all of these things. And so Revelation is doing this with the lion and the lamb, with the sacrifice and the warrior. You've got these two things, and we've got to be careful not to pick one or the other, because here's the thing: most of us tend to lean one way or the other. We want to think about God in a way that we like. And some of us are drawn to those big, powerful, strong kinds of things. And others are drawn to the loving, compassionate, tender sides of things. And when we focus on just one of those, we miss out on the beauty of seeing them together. And so here's what I found. I found that individuals and groups that focus on the compassionate Jesus, right? And again, these are not two different people, but the compassion of Jesus, the lamb side of Jesus, what tends to happen is they tend to use that image to confirm their own personal biases. Okay, what I mean by that is when you say, these are the things that for me are hard, these are the things that I wish were true, they take the sympathetic Jesus, and he's so sympathetic that he says, it's okay. And he takes the things that in our personal lives are hard and says, it's going to be fine, we're going to deal with that. Those who favor the warrior Jesus, they tend to use the kind of warrior Jesus to confirm their cultural and political biases, right? So the things that they look at, the things out there, they say, these are the things wrong with the world, the justice I want to see in the world, the cause I want to see, the political things that I wish would happen. They see the warrior Jesus as coming in and kicking butt and taking care of all of that stuff. And so sometimes people will use the compassionate Jesus as a way of not dealing with other things, because Jesus understands, he's compassionate, he's kind, he's tolerant of these things. Or they'll use the warrior Jesus to say, let's go out and get all those people who don't agree with me and fix all the problems and whatever. And it will tend to be used, not necessarily intentionally, but it'll tend to confirm either your biases in your personal life or your biases in the cultural and political things that you see. And here's the thing. We actually need both of these things, okay? We need a Jesus who's going to both challenge us and comfort us. We need a Jesus who is going to come out and defend us from our enemies, but also be with us in our trouble. We need a Jesus who is going to show us both the justice and the mercy that we need. He's going to deal with our sin and not take it lightly, and he's going to sacrifice and give himself so that we can be freed from that sin. We need both of these things, and we need them together, okay? So you don't want to choose one or the other. But when we are talking about the warrior side of Jesus, okay, it's always important to remember this. Paul tells us in Ephesians chapter 6, our fight is not against flesh and blood, okay? Our fight is against the principalities and powers, the rulers of this evil age, right? This dark age is what we're fighting against. We are not fighting against the people around us. And so when Jesus comes, yes, when he comes to judge, those who have taken the side of darkness will find themselves on the wrong side of his judgment. But here and now, when we talk about Jesus, we are saying he is not fighting against people. He is fighting for people. He is fighting against the forces of evil to rescue people from the kingdom of darkness and bring them into the kingdom of light. And so we do need that warrior, but it's not so that we can destroy the people out there. It's so that we can bring them in to the kingdom. And so that's what we should do with that. Thanks for listening. If you've got your own questions, email questions@BibleSavvy.com. Like and subscribe to catch our regular episodes every Monday on the Bible Savvy Podcast.